Finding a place to belong is everything. It's where you can make a difference, where you're heard, where you have a team that supports you, and the benefits you deserve. At Avera, you can find that place. You belong at Avera. Apply today. Avera.org/careers.
Sioux Falls is home to many things: locally owned businesses, an unmatched work ethic, and a community of leaders dedicated to growth and innovation. Powered by over 300 investors, Forward Sioux Falls is an advancement program aimed at enhancing the Sioux Falls economy. 2026 initiatives are well underway, focusing on talent retention, business attraction, and quality of place enhancement. Look to the future with Forward Sioux Falls.
Do you want to shape and lead the future? Walk with us.
It's the team, the space, and the place that's going to get you where you want to be. It's USD.
The Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce didn't start our thriving business community. That was done by individuals driven to create their dreams.
The Chamber does a lot with advocacy for businesses.
The Chamber is always looking to connect other people to your business.
So we joined right away, and we've been a member ever since.
The Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce, we're standing at your side when nothing's gonna stand in your way.
What's affordable to her might not be for him. Our means may be different, but our need for energy is the same. And keeping the price for that energy as low as possible is exactly what we strive to do. It's what we've always done. Investments made 10 years ago have kept prices nearly unchanged. Investments made today will help keep prices predictable for the future, with energy that's cleaner, reliable, and affordable for all. An energy future that's American-made. Mid-American. Obsessively, relentlessly at your service.
In a world where life moves quickly and education comes in many forms, we believe there is still value in personal relationships, affordable, quality academics, and a supportive, Christ-centered environment. As the University of Sioux Falls looks to the future, we embrace what makes us different. If you're looking for a transformational experience, there is a difference. And that difference is here.
Here, we believe in doing good, even in small ways. In ways nobody sees and only a few notice. We do good in all the details. Through all the difficulties, we do good with every appointment, every conversation, every treatment. We do good for every person. Because no matter what we do here, we're making a difference. And it takes all of us to change somebody's life. Now think of all the good you could do if you join us.
There's something special about the people of Sioux Falls. It's home to go-getters, cultivators, and doers. Sioux Falls is a place where you can pursue your life and your purpose. You can slow down with your family or pick up the pace of your professional growth. It's that hard work, small town feel, close to the land, know your neighbor, endless possibilities that bring people here. Find out for yourself what a difference this state can make. Visit SiouxFalls.com/work, where over 40 of Sioux Falls' top businesses are hiring right now for people like you.
The #1 city for best small places for business and careers according to Forbes magazine, Sioux Falls.
Work Sioux Falls.
ZipRecruiter's #3 hottest job market, Sioux Falls.
Work Sioux Falls.
Over 40 businesses are hiring right now.
Work Sioux Falls.
That's why the Sioux Falls Development Foundation created Work Sioux Falls, a local resource that gives job seekers an inside track to jobs that are open right now.
Work Sioux Falls.
See the difference a local company can make in your career. Visit SiouxFalls.com/work.
It's not just the natural beauty, the outdoor playground, or the top-rated quality of life that puts our state on the map. Sioux Falls is also home to some of the most innovative and cutting-edge healthcare businesses in the country that attract worldwide pioneers in healthcare. Visit SiouxFalls.com/work to browse healthcare positions on all levels, from RNs to scientists, to business development and HR, among many others. Come find out why a healthcare career in Sioux Falls is your next move. Visit SiouxFalls.com/work to find your perfect fit. If you're ready to grow your career with the right company, Sioux Falls is the place to be. Sioux Falls is home to some of the fastest growing manufacturing, healthcare, and financial institutions that have their footprints all over the world. Be a part of something special, something growing, something that makes your short and long-term career goals possible. Sioux Falls businesses need you. Visit SiouxFalls.com/work to learn more about over 45 businesses hiring right now. That's SiouxFalls.com/work.
You've put in some amazing work, and everything is going to come out fantastic. So excited for everything.
All right, Lindsay, it's great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll see you Saturday.
Have a good
Okay,
day.
bye. All right, Maya, what should we do next?
I know.
Can everybody hear me? Yes. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. All right, I'm told that I have to do a couple of housekeeping things, so we're going to do that quick so we can get to the fun. But welcome to the Reskilling Revolution. Ready to go. There we go. Reskilling Revolution, empowering employees for the jobs of tomorrow. We're really excited to share a lot of industry knowledge with the three panelists here, who I will let them introduce themselves here in a second. But the session is being recorded, and if you are here for continuing education credits, there is your information. And they'll also open up the floor at the end for a couple of audience questions. All right. So we have a great panel. First of all, I'm Anna Jankard. I lead learning and development at ViaFlex here in Sioux Falls. And we're going to talk about what reskilling means to our community and the businesses that work and live here. We have some great panelists with us. So Derek DeGeest is president of DeGeest Corporation in T. Devin McGrew is the director of HR for C&B Handling, and Dr. Ronald Place is president and CEO of Avera Health. So
Vera McKinnon.
Vera McKinnon, thank you. Sorry about that. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit more intentionally. And first off is Derek. Where am I pointing?
I have an awesome video to introduce me first. No, I don't.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. All right, our videos are not here. Would you introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Let's just roll with it. So I'm Derek DeGeest, president of DeGeest Corporation, and I've been with our third generation family company now. We've been in business for over just going on 50 years. So we're in manufacturing. So we fabricate and manufacture parts that end up in equipment all over the world. And we also, just through growing up in the industry, I started there when I was about 12, and just from being in manufacturing, it's been from every generation of our family. I've been growing up finding ways to be able to upskill, and be able to help our teams be able to get paid more, and to be able to have good jobs and careers, and then still compete with the product at a national level. And so that's allowed us to be able to always challenge the status quo, and how can we develop more value with the people that we have so that they can do more. And that's really helped us be able to grow. So we have automation that we now bring into our company, and the automation that we use and the technology, we built solutions that we're now helping manufacturers all over North America. So I now actually not only built and helped us be successful, but that automation and stuff that we've done. There it is, I hear it. It's coming, this is good. Whenever it goes, it'll just roll right in. So with that, then, so we have automation that's all over. Is there a video that goes with it? I consult as well, and I go all across North America to build companies to be able to help look for ways to use technology and automation to be able to help their people, to be able to create careers out of jobs, and be able to use that to be able to augment what they're doing so they can be successful, so manufacturing can stay right here in North America, and to help all the way down to the community level. So.
Awesome, thank you. Any sign on that video? Nope, all right. Devin, go for it.
My name is Devin McGrew. As you might be able to tell from my accent, I am not from South Dakota or the Midwest. I was born in West Virginia and also spent some time in Florida. I have been in HR for a little over 10 years now. Currently, I am the Director of HR for C&B Material Handling. A lot of people in this area might know C&B from the John Deere agricultural stores that they have all over the Midwest. They got into material handling about 3 years ago, and we are growing that business through acquisitions, which is very fun to build culture with a culture that's already established. So so we are in manufacturing. With our most recent acquisition, we actually got into what we call engineered solutions, and that business, we can essentially go into an empty warehouse and build it out completely. We have engineers that can design racking and conveyors and all of that, and then we also can provide robots that will work with everything from the forklift side of things. So very interesting to try to staff for those roles in today's world. So doing a lot of reskilling with that.
Thanks, Devin. Dr. Place.
Yeah, I'm going to go a different direction. Ron Place. I'm the CEO of Vera McKinnon, as mentioned. I'm a general surgeon, really, by training and by thinking. And this is where the upskilling comes, I guess. It's my own personal. I spent about the first half of my career as a practicing general surgeon in the military. I served for about 35 years or so. About halfway through that, I was asked to do other things. First, the chief medical officer, chief operating officer, CEO of smaller hospitals, regions, ultimately the military health system. And being a healthcare administrator is significantly different than being a practicing surgeon. And so thinking about what's changing over the course of time, so for me, when I graduated from college almost 40 years ago to what I do now, it's almost nothing the same. The way that we think about pharmaceuticals is almost nothing the same. The way we think about surgical capabilities or cases is different. And I'll give one example. For those of you of an age, when I started in surgery, everybody's admitted the night before surgery, everybody stayed over. Again, there's a few of you of age who can remember those years. And now 95% of what we do is all ambulatory surgery. You come in and whatever is done is done, and then you go home 4 hours later, 6 hours later, 8 hours later, whatever. A lot of that's because of process, a lot of that's because of technology, a lot of that's because of pharmaceuticals, a lot of it's because of rehab. There's so many different things that go into it. So when we think about changing dynamics, it's not just about new skills. It's a whole panoply of things that can lead to the way that we think about the way things change over time. And I hope that we'll get into some of that dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we will. And before we do that, let's level set a little bit about what upskilling is versus reskilling. So upskilling is really about enhancing our current skills. Think about a time when you needed to learn something on top of a skill that you already had. You enhanced it because you were going to need to troubleshoot something, or maybe you needed to you're promoted and you need to have different conversations with your new team members. So upskilling is an opportunity for you to just enhance the skills that you already have. Reskilling is the phenomenon that we're talking about today, and reskilling is essentially taking what you've learned, unlearning it, and then learning something new so that you can take on a role that is brand new. Maybe the responsibilities are brand new. The technology has provided us new jobs and moved us away from other ones. So I think, Derek, you had said it in our previous conversations that today's work is not tomorrow's work. And that's essentially what reskilling is. Just a show of hands, how many of you have been reskilled? Are you doing a job different than what you were hired to do? And maybe it didn't exist when you were hired. We have a couple people. So we're going to start seeing that a lot. And that is what we want to know from manufacturing and healthcare today is what about reskilling do we need to take advantage of? Do we need to be conscious of and aware of so that we can be successful as reskilling becomes more of the norm? So I'm going to hand it off to Devin for our first question. From an HR perspective, what do you see as the most significant skills gap currently affecting our industries today?
So for our industry, our most significant skills gap is that technology. As I said, we just got into this engineered solutions piece. So predominantly material handling, you had a service technician and they did your basic mechanical work on a forklift. Now you have a completely robotic forklift, so you're expecting a service technician to also understand all of the mechanical parts of that as well. So what we have been focused on with the most recent acquisition, and as we learn and develop that part of the industry in all the other locations that we're in, is reskilling some of these service technicians to see if they can become installers. So that's what we term that role for the engineered solutions side. And it, as you can imagine, is a challenge when you take a service technician and tell them they're going to now work predominantly on the computer and on these robots and have to know engineering things and everything else. They look at you like, are you serious? And I'm like, yes, you can do this. Like, you can learn it. And we have a wide range of ages in our industry as well. At CMB, we have service technicians who have literally just left high school and are coming in. And then we have others who span that whole gap up to retirement. Like, there are folks who are still working that are past retirement age. So you can imagine there is a significant gap when it comes to technology with those folks.
Yes, and Dr. Price, I'll ask you the same question. What do you see as the most significant skills gap currently affecting healthcare?
Well, it's the ability to use technology, the ability to use the tools that we have. We underutilize, I mean, just think about at your home computer, how much of the capability within your home computer do you really use? Well, the same is true for us. There's so many things that our tools could do that we just don't use, or at least not to the fullest of their potential. I'll give you an example. A service that we started 18 months or so ago, virtual monitoring, just as an example. So one of the things that healthcare has been doing for decades, for those who, from a cognitive perspective, just they can't really understand the instructions, maybe it's from dementia or some other things, and so we have sitters in rooms to keep them from falling and hurting themselves. Hospital's a dangerous place, right? The floor is hard, you're confused because it's not where you normally live, it's not where you wake up, and all those things. And if you fall in a hospital, you can get hurt. So we have people literally sitting in a room to watch that, to keep people from falling. Well, with use of some AI tools, we can do that virtually. Instead of a sitter watching one person, a sitter can watch 8 or perhaps 10 or 12, and getting prompts from AI, which has been taught to look for these sorts of behaviors in people as they move, that typically leads to why someone would get out of bed. Well, if I'm the patient care tech and that's my job, that's way different than sitting in the room. Instead, now I have to be cognizant of which computers to look at, which screens to look at. I have to understand the prompts that are coming to me from the AI. I have to be able to communicate with the entire nursing staff on the multiple floors that are happening, and I have to do it timely enough such that somebody doesn't get hurt. That's a completely different job than the job that they thought they were getting, perhaps, if they were hired 20 months ago, not 17 months ago. So just how do we use the tools that we have? How do we use the capabilities that we have? And how do we bring the staff along who don't necessarily think about those sort of things to now think, oh, this is a better way to do it, and I'm part of that team. And oh, by the way, I can do more for more people by using some of these techniques, just as an example.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the strategies that your organization is taking on to meet those needs?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is, first you have to find the right people who we think have the skills to do it, or we have to ask the people, are you interested in something like this, which is way different than what you've been doing before? So it's both a bottom-up and a top-down approach for identifying talent and asking talent to identify itself. And then through some relatively simplistic educational models, I mean, it takes some time to learn how to do it, but not a lot, and then some good feedback on it. What we found, and again, it's great for our team, but because we're doing it that way, sitting in someone's room for hours at a time is actually pretty boring. Maybe you've noticed that. And so we actually miss falls because it's hard to pay attention to the same thing for hours at a time. And so what we found through this technique is that we're actually having less falls, the quality of our care has improved, and the ability to communicate with someone who's not physically in the room, but visually in the room has also led to patient satisfaction increases because now somebody responds almost immediately when I have a question as a patient. So we have some unintended consequences for trying to solve a problem that led to some other solutions that we didn't even think about.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty incredible that that's being identified along with the implementation of some of this. Now, Derek, there's a couple of good examples of how positions are becoming obsolete. What are you seeing as far as a shift in the need of skills and some positions becoming obsolete, and how are you addressing it?
Manufacturing has just as much disruption as healthcare, just because there's so much money being invested to be able to, they're such big industries. So the amount of technology is disrupting every single position in healthcare and in manufacturing, and with that, most of people's jobs today are changing. Statistically, even the jobs, every job in manufacturing, that they'll statistically not be there in 2 years. So our whole mentality approach of our whole company is to be able to find a way to systematize and be able to save the information of the people, what the skills that they're doing, knowing they're not going to be there. Either they're going to move to a different position because there's so many opportunities, or hopefully that we're moving them up into another position and we don't want them to have to go backwards. And so that really has been a big shift for us because every position is changing. And so for us, even though they're changing, there's a lot of still fundamental pieces that are always there. And so everything we're doing is finding ways to be able to document and save each of those steps and to make sure that we're ready for them to be able to move forward, and that once that's documented, as the positions are changing, they can move from that same truth to be able to move forward instead of always retraining. Because when we bring someone back to retrain after a year that they've left it, it's different than when they were there before. And so they're having to learn that same thing again before they can even help someone. And that's really frustrating and hard because they also still have their other role.
So it sounds like you're identifying what that shift in role looks like, but how are you prioritizing those roles? How do you prioritize the development of that training and that movement?
I think that a lot of it before was really ad hoc and where the biggest fire was, or where that next position then moved, and then, oh my gosh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Now we got to panic and put that out. And about 4 years ago, I was on a panel for our industry speaking in manufacturing, and I met another company that was using an EOS operating system, so it's an entrepreneur operating system. And in that, I really saw that there could be a structure to systematize it. If you don't have a base system that you can work from, all these different new ideas and things are different. I could tell you 6 different technologies we're using that are awesome, but to just drop that in could cause more disruption and then more silos barely helping. So we implemented that as a company, and then we came to, as a leadership team, of what our goals were that led then down into our departments, what goals they could do to help fill that, and then that moved down into one-on-ones and their own individual development plans. So everyone started from our North Star, where we're going as a company, moved down into how each department could help be a part of that, and then how as an individual, how they could be a piece of that as well. So that's really how we found the biggest needs, for one, because we have our KPIs of what we want to do as a company operationally, and the second was as an individual, how they are able to be a part of that so that they could feel like they're a piece of help in that move forward.
That's a great connection to HR, Devin. How are you assessing the skills gaps and finding the need in a timely manner?
Yeah, so as I said, we are just a few years into this. So they tried to transfer everything that we did in the ag stores over, and we have learned in those few years already what worked in ag does not necessarily work for us. So at this point, we are really just beginning to dig in. We are starting to identify where all of the gaps are, first and foremost. When you come from acquisitions to, you basically, so when we do an acquisition, we go in and we do a one-on-one with every single employee in that location and find out, like, what do you know? What is your background? What are you bringing over? And then we try to figure out where they fit within our organization. But to identify them first and foremost, and then ask the individuals, similar to what you all are doing. Like, some folks don't want to change or grow or get involved in technology-based roles. So that's fine. We need a guy in the shop that's just gonna work on the old school forklifts that come in. So we identify it and we're fine with that and we let them stay there.
Mm-hmm. Great. So let's take a quick shift and look specifically at that training piece that we've been talking about. So 69.8% of our workforce has indicated that they've received formal training in the last 12 months, and 95.8% have indicated that they've received informal training in the last 12 months. So that's just showcasing the significance of and the value of training and how we need to continue to have those development conversations. And in some of the conversations that we've had prior to today, it was about generational differences in the workforce and desire or empowerment from Ben this morning. So Dr. Place, how are you working with your team and your leaders to make sure that employees are engaged from the front line all the way up to leadership?
Yeah, well, I'll do it the other way around. I think all the way down to leadership. To me, leaders serve. I mean, in healthcare, I think is a good example, but I'd be hard pressed to find an industry where it doesn't work this way. If we really think that patients, so in other industries, customers, are the most important part of the organization, then the people closest to them doing most for them are actually the most important. So on an organizational chart, shouldn't they be on the top? I mean, really, shouldn't they? And the further away you get from that, shouldn't you be lower on the organizational chart? So that's the way that I think of it. So that makes me the lowest on the organizational chart, which means that all I could do is screw stuff up or set the conditions for the team to be successful. But it's the team that leads to success, certainly not me. No ideas of mine. So if that's the way that you think about it, then how do you think ahead through not just these are the tasks to be done, these are new tasks, how do we teach it? These are old tasks we're not doing so well, how are we measuring ourselves? What's the new educational tool to get better at the old tasks even? And where's the leadership development along the way? Because even if you stay at the same organization for 40 or 50 years past the retirement age, at some point all of us are leaving. And so, what's the leadership development? Who's following me and how do they do it better than me? How do we get rid of the mistakes or the wrong thinking that I have or the lack of complexity? Or how do we think through what does the future of organizational structure look like? What does the future of diagnostic capabilities look like? And are we planning for that ahead of time so that when it happens, we are ready for it? I see that as our job. And so some of it's different techniques, but all of it involves education or training, depending on formal certificates and what's the difference between education and training. But you have to do that all the time. And as an organization as large as McKinnon, 8,200 people, if you're not thinking about how all that relates and doing it both at small scale and extraordinary scale for each of those particular areas, that some of it may be very unique to this small group of 10 people, and some of it may be a requirement for the entire organization. How do you build it to scale? Again, for the organization to grow and mature and be sustainable past when all of us are going to be there, all of that has to be taken into account.
Mm-hmm. You make a very good point, is we have to continue to develop our current skills. Upskilling and reskilling need to live together, and we need to be doing it together. So from an engagement standpoint, or should I say an operational demand standpoint, how do you, Derek, balance operational demands with the dedication to upskilling and reskilling?
We've used our system to find bottlenecks and things in our business that we need to focus on, finding the areas where people have a process or a skill that we have to make sure for business continuity that we have someone there that can do that as a backup. But then the other one is we used to go from just annual survey that would tell us where we're at, and that's just not enough. Even the talking today where they were talking about the speed of needing instant gratification and feedback, our whole thing is about closing the loop to be able to get that quicker. So we do surveys and we found out where our weakest points were, and for us it was developing some more of the people skills that go with it, because we have to adapt to be able to make sure that we as a whole organization are changing and are always self-developing all the time. And if you're in giving the tools back to empower your people to be able to do that, and one thing that we did was that we worked on communication skills, because that's something that's very lacking from every generation, on how to communicate and work better together, because you have to have over communication as things are changing quickly. Otherwise, frustrations go up very, very fast. And so we used a thing called People Thriver by Matt Tinney. It's actually been helping us to be able to pull back from huge development or a leadership thing that takes whole weekends, that now we're doing 5 to 15 minute every 2 weeks, where they're learning a specific skill or set, and then they're implementing it, all the people, not just leadership, but every person in the whole company. Whether it's a tool where all of us can work on to be able to make sure all learn how to communicate, set expectations as a leader or your manager, and as your production for your workforce. And then they have a survey the next week on how you did. So we have instant feedback. They also have a voice to be able to say how you're doing, and we can close that loop much quicker. So that's been really good to help with engagement, to let them know that we hear you, we care, and we're bringing this skill, help your mid-level supervisor, your manager, learn this new skill and what you can do to help them be successful. And by the way, you're learning the same skill that could make you a good manager or supervisor in the future as well. So those are one of the things that we're using. And the last one is that we came up from our surveys we're doing and found out people, like everyone is worried about the economy and whether money and what are they doing, what a chance for raises. Well, if your development plans or you have annual or biannual pay raises, what do you do in between that? So we give our supervisor managers tools and their teams, and we started Dave Ramsey's Dollar Sense and Budget Wise, which is a tool that they can help get them back, empower them, get control of your finances. Doesn't matter how much you make if you don't know how to be able to use and manage your money. And then there's a lot of educational content in there, from buying your first house to looking forward to retirement, to be able to help empower them to be able to get control of their finances and their future as well.
And that connects directly to what Ben was talking about this morning, is developing the holistic person. And if you're happy at work and happy in life and building together, then you're going to have more success. Devin, are you seeing this similar strategies and feedback loops and conversations? And how does it, the challenges that come with being more of a national company?
Yeah, so one of the things that we struggle with is we have locations spread all over. We're predominantly on the East Coast, so me being out here in Sioux Falls, I don't see the people all that much like I used to when I was a regional HR for the company. But one of the things that we struggle with, again, back to the acquisitions and that culture, is we have managers who may not have had any kind of formalized managerial training. So one of the things that drew me to CMB and just really blew me away that they do is we have an annual leadership summit. So every year we bring every single manager from the company, every location, into one area, and we do leadership training. This past year we did Franklin Covey. The year before that we did trusted leadership. And we're developing right now, working on next year. So what we do, we also do a lot of internal promotion, which also results in people moving into manager roles who may not have that formalized training. So our focus right now is building up our leaders so that they can better lead the people and get us set in the right spot to move forward and grow.
Awesome. And I think you, we're starting to talk about leadership and integrating the technology into that. So 80% of employers are using technology to address these skills gaps. And there's a list here of items and different technology innovations that you're starting to see implemented into the workforce. So I'll kind of open the floor. Do any of you see something on this list that you are using, and how are you using it?
We're using a lot of those up there. It's good. Just relevant to this group, if you're not in manufacturing, talking about automation and robotics may not be as relevant, but I hear a lot about AI and artificial intelligence. I just came back from there's some world-renowned speaker, futurists that talked about AI and the worry everyone has over AI. And everything they talked about AI was the same things, that they're not taking jobs, they're actually going to be working on taking tasks that are remedial or should be tedious, that could be automated as well, and free you up to be able to do more with your time. It's the same conversation I talk about with robots, that robots didn't take every factory jobs worker when they came out. In fact, they created more jobs, they created more opportunities, And that's really where AI is doing that as well. But as most people aren't in manufacturing, they're here and they're trying to start to cram AI into their day. One thing advice I'd give you, because I've gone through the whole cycle in automation with robots in manufacturing. The parallels are so similar, it's crazy, because everyone tried pushing robots out into their factories to be able to help either replace or to augment or to be able to make manufacturing better and the tasks that were better. The problem is that no one had systematized, had good data, they had good processes for automation to work very well. And so then it took a while to be able to get better data, get better process, get better structure so that robots and automation could work. The same thing's happening with AI. People are throwing that in there now, and they're just expecting it to just work, and it's not, because if you don't have good data, if you don't have good information before it goes in or processes, you're not going to get very good stuff out of it. So that's a sad answer to that. We all still have to do the work to be able to document your process, standardize what you're doing, and have control of what you're doing first before you throw in the next piece of technology to think it's going to fix all of our problems.
Right. Dr. Place, Avera is implementing Epic, and that's a good example of how technology can enhance and improve processes. We have to go back to the learning of it. How do we use the tool effectively? And so what's the experience that you're working through now with the implementation process?
Yeah, well, Epic is an electronic health record. The one that we currently use is a bit outdated, comparatively speaking, doesn't have nearly the capabilities or the capacity that Epic does. So we're on the initial installation part of it, but I'll use an example that Epic has, and that it has ambient listening capability. So with most electronic health records, when you go to see someone, they're sitting at a computer screen typing stuff out. Why? When we have tools that can just listen to it and turn that into a note. And oh, by the way, that social part that happens where we're asking about, how was your night or how was your weekend or what about your grandmother's birthday or all those sorts of things, that gets taken out. It's not that the social interaction wasn't important to the patient-clinician relationship, because it is, but it doesn't belong in a note. So using technologies that take all that input and put it in the right order so the clinician isn't spending their time typing as a clerk typist as opposed to a physician in cognitive decision making, it has those sorts of tools. But it's not just for the physicians in an outpatient encounter. It can also be used as an inpatient. It can be used for our nurses who are doing a nursing assessment when someone is first admitted to the hospital. It can be used for educational capabilities, both in person and a digital library of best-in-class video presentations about this is what your diagnosis is, this is what you can do about it, or this is how your medication works, or this is how your therapy works, and you can take it home with you, all of those different things. So the key components of the interpersonal relationship still happen, but we don't spend as much time on low-value tasks. To Derek's point, the low-value tasks that you don't really need to be doing hundreds and thousands of times, you offload that to an artificial intelligence capability.
So we're redirecting tasks into relationship building.
Yeah.
Which then improves the patient's experience as well as the team member experience.
Yeah, and it improves trust too. I mean, do you really trust somebody who spends their entire time with their back to you? I mean, just think about that for a second. Because we have one of two tasks to do. Am I going to listen to you? Am I going to write my notes? And every clinician struggles with that. So how about you just eliminate that part of it so the trusting part of the relationship can occur and the great healthcare advice can occur all at the same time.
Right. So Devin, to go off of that, how is technology helping you and your team or your company really assess the skills, and what skills are we now seeing because of technology?
So we, from an HR standpoint, we are starting to use more predictive analysis and things like that, specifically surrounding those engineered solutions type roles. I had never even heard of it prior, so I use a lot of AI to help me build job descriptions and things like that. So us in the HR group have really had to up our ante with AI and learning how to get AI to do what we want. And then with our service technicians, there's a lot of, not necessarily straight like virtual and augmented reality, but a lot of the trainings that the manufacturers do is simulations. So while they may not be physically working on the machine, they're running through a simulation of seeing like these are the things that can go wrong, and then they're able to work on it without breaking it, so to speak. So they, a lot of our technicians they were so scared of this technology piece, but the more that they get involved in it and see it and go through trainings, the better they are. I mean, I've had people who are near retirement come to me and it's like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I'm working on a computer and it's like telling me what I'm doing. And I was like, yeah. And we just got a new ERP system, blew everybody's minds that when the service technicians are performing their job, they're supposed to take their notes that go in the work order. Now they just have to talk into their phones or their iPads and it does everything for them. And it was like the greatest thing to pretty much all of them. Like, we don't have to type anymore. I was like, exactly.
So that's a nod to the generational differences that we were talking about earlier. Now, there's students here, and we heard from students this morning. I know Avera has a really close relationship with some schools. Can you talk, Dr. Place, about how you're helping to prepare students for healthcare?
Well, yeah, I think most people, when you think about healthcare in particular as a teenager, you think it's doctors and nurses. And while that's certainly true, the range of activities that are available within the healthcare field are, scores of them. We like to joke about it at McKinnon. McKinnon's a city upon itself because we have electricians, we have plumbers, we have biomedical maintenance, you just name it. We have carpenters who are building, you name it, we have it. And so, but the way that you build or the way that you fix or the way you do things in a healthcare facility is different than in a home, for example. And the codes are different and the way that we handle it. So when I think of developing experience for people who don't really know for sure what they want to do, but they're interested in a helping environment and they're interested in doing something that they can feel good about at the end of the day, but maybe I'm squishy about blood, or maybe I'm squishy about talking to people at all. Where can I fit where I want to do something where I'm going to help people, and yet this fits within my niche, it fits within my personality, it fits within what interests me, the thing that makes me go, oh, I like that thing. Even if it's not, being a pharmacist or being a nurse or something that's healthcare and I don't want to do that. There's so many other things that are involved. And so we just thought it would be good to present that to high school juniors who are becoming seniors on what are the options. And if it trips your trigger, then great. And if it doesn't, then you've learned that despite the 37 different opportunities that we have, that we actually show people, I think it's 37, but whatever it is, and if despite all of those things, that's not for me, then isn't when you're still in high school a good time to figure that out? As opposed to, well, everybody wants me to be a nurse, so I guess that's what I'll do, and I'll go to the first 2 years of nursing school only to say, you know what, I don't want to do this at all, and I've spent 2 years of my life figuring that out. So just trying to do that earlier, in particular for people who don't have any experience in their family, their friends, or anybody else in those general healthcare fields. So I'm being a little bit vague on it because I don't want to make anybody feel either bad or terrible about what I'm not mentioning, but it's a huge program that we've been doing for about 6 years or so now. And to the point I made before, about 90% of those who experience that program either are still in some sort of training or now in a healthcare-related field, 90%. But the concomitant is also true. 10% have figured out, that's not for me. I'm glad I chose to figure it out, but it's not for me, and I did something else. So good all around.
Yeah, and how are we ensuring, Derek, I'll throw this question at you, how are we ensuring that these skills of our upcoming workforce are skills that they'll need when they actually get into the workforce?
While they're still in school?
Yeah, how are we preparing them as students to come into a workforce that's always changing?
Well, I'm on the Build Dakota board, and we work to promote technical education. So that's one thing that we work on to try to make sure that we're meeting with all the technical schools, which we do on almost a monthly basis, to make sure we see what their curriculum is, to make sure it's relevant to the jobs that are in manufacturing, healthcare, and all different degrees and ways that they can use that, and that is growing significantly. And then we're also in the high schools. We sponsor 3 high schools for welding and manufacturing programs to help them to have access to they can build stuff with your hands. People that don't know what they want to do, give them access to get hands-on training, to be able to try different things. And then they do tours, and then there's ways that they can get involved at our manufacturing facility as well. So the best way is to be able to get them actually doing it, to get their hands on it, to try to see if they really like it, see if they have a passion for it, then have this exposure, like you're saying, to the different types of career opportunities. That isn't just, you don't have to work on the manufacturing floor, it's same as a doctor. You can also, or a nurse, you don't have to be a welder or a fabricator to work in manufacturing. And we have automation technicians as well. We have people that come in as a welder, who then become a robot operator, they become a robot programmer, who then become robot integrators, and now traveling the country and helping install and train other people to do it. And then we have some that are very happy being a robot operator, and that's what they want to do. So I mean, there's so many career opportunities available, starting back at giving them experience and getting hands-on and getting immersed in it to see if it's something that they find interesting.
Awesome. And I think this is probably a good time to open up to the floor. Questions from the audience? Julie.
Yeah, I have one, and that's kind of the debate when the individual is thinking more about what's in it for me, and you really have some business decisions that you're looking at in terms of the reskilling aspect. How do you make that sell?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. I think that any organization that's not interested in their own employees is starting to fail. I mean, I get that, well, if I teach you how to do that, you're going to leave, you're going to take that skill, go somewhere else. But if I don't, then I'm showing you that I don't care about you, so why wouldn't you go somewhere else to an organization that does care about you? Now, there's limits to it, right? Everybody's got to think about their budget, and you got to spend enough time doing the work that we have in front of us as in addition to this is the new learning that I have to do. So all of it's part of a balance. But if an organization doesn't think about budgeting, and by budget I don't just mean money, I mean time, doesn't think about budgeting for being prepared for what's coming next and doing that ahead of time, isn't really thinking about the long-term sustainability of the organization.
And from an HR perspective, like I'm consistently wanting to build up people. So my sell is always to them, like you can take what we're gonna pay you to learn and you can go somewhere else. And why wouldn't you wanna better yourself? Like he said, average person, 2 years, so why not do it? And most of the time people will buy into that because they realize I can work on myself and utilize that anywhere that I go.
And if we're not addressing it, they're already looking anyways. So if we don't have a path or options, they're going to find it. And it's one click on your phone away from knowing the 40 jobs that are available in a 100-mile radius. So seeing the career opportunities and path makes people want to buy in and stay a part of it longer. And seeing that starting over somewhere else may not be a better option. If I buckle down and I continue to learn here, I can build on the skills I already have that are already applicable to where I'm at now.
Another question? All right, yes.
For you that use AI a lot, what do you think are the limitations of AI? There's some jobs that they won't be able to do. I see those as like conversational jobs that might have.
So limitations to AI.
I think the more language model stuff is going to be the ones that will be harder because the conversational is where it's being really good at using the data. So I think anywhere where you need some advanced decision making with physical, that's where it's getting harder. So it's still going to be augmenting the basic tasks and leaving room to be able to continue to be able to do more high level. So it'll be a long time. I even see like Elon Musk has this new robot that can actually walk around and crack eggs and like can move, and everyone's like, oh, I've heard people say, oh my gosh, it's going to take every manufacturing job again. We're all worried about the same thing again. And then he said it's 5 to 10 to even longer before it'll be in manufacturing. They're really trying to help old people in the retirement homes and to be more of companion based about help. So I think that the focus isn't taking all of our jobs so much as the biggest push for AI and moving into robots, because that's really my world, is to be able to help with people that need companionship and basic aid and help is where that's at. They're not looking to put a robot or AI into your most of the workspace the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has to be a task that's done thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and it has to be done exactly the same way, or in general it's not going to work. But there's some things that, I'll use a physician example. It will not surprise me that before too long, I'll leave it that way, that we don't have radiologists interpreting radiographic images, because it's just pictures. I get it. My brother's a radiologist, for the record. It's just pictures, though. And so there's all kinds of studies right now that will show that there's less error rate with AI interpreting radiographic images than radiologists. Except there are some other downsides of AI as well. Some of it's called hallucinations. I don't know how many of you have read a whole lot about AI, but I mean that you put in all this data and then it'll spit out a thing that is completely wrong. Rarely, but it does it. So who's there to make sure that you don't get a hallucination in the image interpretation, just as an example? So even if all of imaging interpretation is outsourced to AI, somebody still has to do a quality check on it. Now, maybe it won't be a radiologist, or maybe it will. I don't know what it's going to be, but we can't just offload all of that work. Similar to the automation lines, there's still people who are checking as things go down the automation line, is it still meeting the quality from a person's visual inspection? And are we still doing we're going to test 10% of these or 2% of those or whatever? That still has to happen. So there's all kinds of things. And I really, again, the more that's exactly the same thing hundreds and thousands of different times, the more it lends itself to that. But even if we go down that pathway, it still requires humans to make sure that what we want out of it is still what we're getting out of it, irrespective of what the task is.
And those are the jobs that most of us have the hardest time keeping people in as well, because they're the most repetitive, they're most monotonous, and they're the ones that people don't want to stay in. So having that available will make a tool to be able to make a new position that will be able to pay a little bit better, be able to have tools available. That's what I'd say to every company I go to. If there's tool or technology available to make the job better, you have to do it, or you will not be able to keep people. Because people are smart enough to know when they come in, they will not spend very long once they realize what the job is, and if there's technology or automation or a way to be that's better to do it, people will not do it because they know that their task is not valued, and they know that they're not contributing to something that they also are proud of to do. Ooh, so that's one of the things that we really look for in our company and companies we work with.
I think that's a really good segue to our final question is, I'll just start with Derek and go down the line. But what advice do you have for leaders and companies that are starting to develop that strategy to prepare for a workforce full of jobs that either don't exist now or that might not even know about for another 5 to 10 years? Derek?
Have a basic system that you can go back to that is adaptable. So if you have a proven plan to be able to communicate where you're at, for people to be able to be open and free to be able to say what's working and what's not in the roles that they're in, we'll be able to help you identify the ones that are changing the fastest or where the biggest frustration point is. And if you don't know either one of those, if you don't know what that is, you're going to be caught off guard, and it's going to disrupt your company because that person means that there's another potential job they could do, or they're going to start looking. So that's one of the things that we see to be able to help them do that.
Yeah, so I would just caution everyone to make sure that they have a plan in place for succession planning, because like we've talked about up here, odds are your people are going to either move up within your company or they're going to leave your company and go somewhere where they can grow. So make sure that you have great succession planning in place, and also focus on reskilling your workers. Be willing to put in the time and effort to give them whatever skills they need once you identify what the future looks like for your company. Because if you don't, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, the way you phrase the question, I guess I'm going to go a little bit different direction. My advice first, don't be afraid. I mean, if you're afraid of making the wrong decision, don't be afraid. Doing nothing is the wrong decision. So do something. That's the first thing. So first, don't be afraid. And the second is then think through what are the right tools, or what are the right processes, or what's the right technology, and think through about what it is that if you and you alone were going to improve your systems, which of those would it be, or is it all of them? And think through what you want 5 years from now to look like, and then start thinking in your mind what the pathway to that might be. Chances are the pathway is going to change over that time, but if you're not started down that pathway, if you haven't taken that first step, if you haven't been willing to say that we're going to be different and that's okay, and my responsibility is to help us get to a reasonable place 3 years from now or 5 years from now or whatever, if you're not willing to go down there, then maybe the upskilling needs to happen to you in something else other than what you're doing right now, because you have to be comfortable in that if you're going to lead your organization down that path.
Really great advice. Thank you all. Thank you. Oh, would you like to see some video?
Show my video.
We spent all that time on it.
How do I play it?
manufacturing.
Yes.
I believe this is Avera.
Rural medicine fosters innovation in a number of ways. You have to be innovative if you're going to continue to provide high-quality patient care.
And if you think of how our farmers and ranchers have innovated through the years, we continue to follow in their footsteps. Because sometimes when you do have limited resources, you have to think creatively and think progressively in order to deliver care.
And so thinking through how do you provide a service, a healthcare service, to people who are so dedicated to their vocations that essentially requires them to be on that land 24/7. That's what it means to think through supporting rural America to rural health.
It's the call. That's the story of how we make the world a better place. But as an organization, we model how to do healthcare in the upper Midwest.
The awesome part about rural healthcare is that we all work together. We are capable of providing great quality healthcare in a rural setting, keeping people close to home and focusing on those relationships with our community members.
We have a shortage of nurses and physicians projected in our future, and we need to find a way to utilize the staff that we have and the new staff that we get in the most efficient way, and virtual tools allow us to do that. It gives us more options into how we use our care.
Now this connectivity allows me to continue with all the wonderful things about living in rural America, but still having access to the specialized medical care that's present in cities.
I really appreciate how willing Avera is to be innovative and to challenge us to find new ways to deliver high quality care to patients.
The depth and breadth of the capabilities of the staff that we have and their absolute dedication to our mission is an incredible thing to see. So I couldn't be more proud of each individual in Avera and the collective team of Avera and what we have been able to do, and equally important, what we will be doing.
I joined CMB in 2008, and we were a 13-store organization. We were a small regional player in the John Deere space, primarily in the Midwest. CMB Material Handling started with the idea of building an organization, building a company that would have the same idealistic values and strategies that we have on the ag side, and building that foundation of doing the right thing for the customers, being the supplier of choice, being the investment of choice, being the employer of choice. Right now, we represent about 26% of the counties in the continental United States.
We can take care of parts, we can take care of service, sales, engineered solutions, but really the key of how we're the one-stop shop is that we partner with our customers. We listen to what they need and we find the solutions that we can bring to them.
Material handling is important because without it, I mean, there's a lot of things that wouldn't happen day to day. I mean, loading semis, food deliveries, the list is endless. It's involved in everything.
If you look around your house or your workplace, you'll see pretty much tons of things touched by forklifts at some point in their life cycle, whether that's in the processing cycle, manufacturing, warehousing, distribution.
Whether that's a pair of pants or if it's a tire or a sink for your bathroom is touched by a forklift, by a conveyor, by something. And so ultimately, when we look back at some of the reasons why we wanted to get into the material handling business and to diversify, it was a growth opportunity for us as a company and an organization, but also afforded a lot of different people an opportunity to grow as human beings too, which is ultimately one of the most important things in life.
We all work together and we're all working for the same cause, which is taking care of our customers and taking care of our employees. I work at CMB because I wanted to be someplace where I was valued and where I felt like the culture was important to the leadership and the owners, and that is what you have here.
Like a piano in there.
I know. let's give one more big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much.
Get Jumpy down.
Thank